Hi everybody, it's me, I'm MattHawes of Comics Limited, a comic book vendor located inside the Big E2 Superstore flea market at 1540 Van Avenue in Evansville, Indiana, and also the host and producer of The Happy Show. Anyway, I'm making this video today to discuss Howard Stern and more appropriately about how his show has seemingly changed over the years. And this has become a topic of discussion because at the time of this recording, relatively recent news is that Sirius Radio will probably not renew his contract, at least not for the amount that they have done it in the years past or more. And so it's likely that Howard Stern's show will come to an end whenever that contract is up for renewal again in a, I guess, relatively recent amount of time. Anyway, but my main discussion is not to do with the whole Sirius contract deal. It's more to discuss what a lot of people have talked about over the years, that the show has changed anyway. It's not the show it used to be. Howard's lost his edge, and right now he's more worried about doing celebrity interviews with A-list celebrities and such, and basically helping them promote their stuff rather than going at them and for being vapid or self-absorbed or whatever like he used to. And he used to want to tear down some of these people who, or at least take them down a notch, some of these celebrities. A lot of people would perceive him as being the common man kind of guy for that reason, and that's the way he projected himself. He wanted to promote himself as being this guy who would be no nonsense, cut to the bull, and say it like it is, and shockingly so. And one of his favorite targets was these elite celebrities, the Hollywood elite, who a lot of times are full of themselves and a bunch of vapidness and that sort of thing. And a lot of people think Howard, as he made more money and got married to what many consider a trophy wife. And I'm not saying that, but that's the view. And moved to Hamptons and all that. That he became a different person. He changed. I'm here to say something I've been saying for years. I've mentioned it in comments on videos and such. I don't think Howard changed. I think he was revealed to be what he wanted to be all along. Now, I'll explain. See, I started watching David Letterman's show, the Late Night with David Letterman on NBC back in the 1980s, and in the mid-80s is when I first saw Howard Stern. We didn't get his radio show in Evansville, Indiana, and at that time, if you didn't get on the radio station, there was no internet and all that sort of thing, so the only way you could hear him is to be in the market that he was on the radio. You heard of him, but I did get to see him on the David Letterman show, and that's how I became aware of him. And this was so long ago. He still had the mustache. He hadn't yet adopted the look that was tailored for him with the help of his friend from Twisted Sister, Dee Snider. He, he wasn't really the cool, hip looking Howard Stern. And then, of course, once he started to get more and more popularity, and then his radio show started to expand, and the Channel 9 show, which was his own TV show that he had back in the late 80s, early 90s, that ran locally in New York, but it also was nationally syndicated. It was shown after Saturday Night Live, if I remember correctly, here in this area, back in that time frame. And so I got to see that, and then of course later you do the E channel and such. So even before his radio show, I could actually hear his radio show beyond, clips here and there. That was how I knew of him. So I followed him for a long time, and then I follow like on YouTube and such. There's many clips and such over the years, and so I've been able to, not only through having lived through the periods that he did all this, but going back and hearing a lot of the stuff on the radio that I wasn't able to hear originally through YouTube and other sites. I got a pretty good indication of what I think, and yes, it is my own psychoanalyzing of Howard Stern, but I think it's pretty sound reasoning on my part for why I say he hasn't changed. Howard has mentioned several times that he's went through therapy the last few years. He's had a number of issues that he's dealt with. if you listen to his show, it's no question. He first of all he strives for success and everything. He is a hard worker. I'll give him that. I mean, I won't take away anything from his career in the sense that he has earned his position and he's fought for it, but he had to do it in a way that I don't think he necessarily wanted to have to do. He let his anger and his drive uh, take him into this area because he needed to be noticed. And let's be honest, no knocking. I'm not trying to be mean here, but and I'm no fashion plate myself. But Howard's not a looker. He was never going to get by on those looks. And so he had humor though. He had his sense of humor that was kind of a witty sense of humor, and irreverent kind of humor. And so when he went on the radio, he took that personality with him, and the way to make waves was to be shocking, and that's why I mentioned about the looks, not to denigrate him, but what I'm saying is he had to do something to get noticed, and he was talented enough, and he was smart enough, frankly, that he knew he had to get this persona, because most people have said over the years that the Howard regardless back in the day or even now, the Howard that you don't see on camera or on the radio when he's not on air, he's pretty much a mild guy, the way I understand it, and most people consider him a pretty nice guy who have been his friends 30 years. I remember back in the day, Richard Simmons would remark that Howard, how different Howard would be, and they were actually friends. That shows you something that for a period there, Howard was actually friends with Richard Simmons off the air, and that kind of gives you some indication that if Howard was really the person who was on the air, would there be as much? But Howard's own drive and for succeeding and everything else, even somebody like Richard, he eventually drove away because for him it's all about career. And again, this is nothing. This part isn't really psychoanalyzing him. This part he said all through the years. You listen to interviews. You listen to him interview celebrities on his show, even to this day, and he always sees their career through a filter of how he sees his own worldview, how he sees things, because because he always brings up about being jealous or competition, how hard the competitive drive is. And mostly successful comedian celebrities, not just comedians, celebrities, musicians, actors, all of them, you do have to have some competitive edge and drive to get where you are, admittedly, for the most part. Um, but at the same time, he seems to project on a lot of these people when he asks them his own way. Like he can't, because he seems to think like they would have the same insecurities he does whenever he addresses them. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because this is some of the stuff that informs me on himself, and why I've come to the conclusion that I have over the last few years about how Howard has not changed. He's changed the show. He's definitely changed the show. He's changed his sense of humor and all that. But I'm saying the person inside. He's changed only in the sense like anybody, getting older and him dealing with psychologists and all that, and the therapy and all that. Yeah, he's I would say he's mellowed, but as far as that guy with that drive and the same insecurities and all, I'm sure it's all still there. What it was, like I said, is back in the beginning of his career, in order to make a mark, he had to do something that nobody else could do, and also stuff that he had to do it in a way he couldn't do himself. Because again, he wasn't going to get by the traditional way as far into show business. So he went through the DJ and route with shock DJ, and he helped pioneer that era of shock DJs. And that doesn't always mean that everything that he did was genuine. For instance, what I'm getting at is like I said before, he tries to project himself as the common man. Howard has never been the common man. He has never been the common man. I'm not saying he's went through some rough years, I guess, by like he certainly wasn't always rich, but his parents, as I understand it, they weren't poor. Ben Stern was audio engineering, a successful one at that. And when he moved his family, Ben, to Roosevelt in New York, I think that's where it was. They moved to a predominantly African American neighborhood, and Howard has mentioned this many times over the years. But he's also mentioned they didn't have to move into the neighborhood they moved into. It was admittedly a lower income area, and the reason they did it is the more philosophy of the parents, which they wanted to show that they were supportive of the black community and such. They were more liberal minded about things, and so they made a purposeful choice to move to the area they did. It wasn't an economical choice. And so Howard, it did inform the way Howard was in many ways, that move. But again, it wasn't that the guy was like he was a poor guy and was truly a common man. I'm not saying he doesn't have some element of that. Again, being in that area and the living life he lived at the time, sure, he'd be absorbing a lot of the community and that kind of aspect. But I think it's more a persona that he's really was acting as a champion of the common man than anything, because it was a means to an end. It was a means to get his success. And when I listen to those old shows, because again, he has went through therapy. He definitely has issues that he admits to himself, has admitted to himself. And I think one of his problems was in his strive for success, he had a jealousy of the Hollywood elite. He didn't think they were wrong because they were the way they are. He was not happy that he wasn't where they are too, and that I think it also kept wearing down on him, especially with the press and celebrities and such, who knocked him because of his shock jock antics. He wasn't going to be accepted by the majority of the celebrity in Hollywood and all that, the entertainment business. He wasn't going to be accepted like he really wanted to be. He always wanted to be, I think, an A-lister, a Hollywood elite. I think that was always the case. It's just, again, he knew the way that to get success at all, he had to go to extremes, literally. And he became this shock jock. And it got him this fame, and it got him infamy, in fact. So for much of his career, especially those first decade or two, he was known because of his brash, irreverent, in-your-face humor. But he's also known for taking pops, punching up and taking pops at the celebrities and exposing them for the phoniness, for the vapidness, for the ridiculous things they did. But again, it seems to me he was really more just upset that he wasn't in that group. He wanted to be part of that in crowd. And the proof in the pudding is what happened over the intervening years. And if you do listen to the old shows. They're still available on YouTube and here and there, and different uploads from people here and there, or on other websites that would archive such things. Listen back to them and listen with this view that I'm talking about, where this viewpoint that coming from an angle of this is a man who is angry at these people because they do not accept him as one of their own, and secretly deep down that's what he really wants to be. Maybe not so secretly except for to his listening audience, because he didn't want to the audience to know that that's what he desired, because then he's no longer the common man. He wanted to make them think, oh, he's one of them, and he's speaking against these celebrities because they of course feel the same way as he supposedly does. But you saw it, if you listen and you watch closely enough, you see that it is hurting him that they would not accept him. And even though I think he's not a dummy, he's an intelligent person. I won't ever say he's not. So he was aware, I'm sure, on some level, that he knew why they weren't accepting him, really, because at that point, again, he's known for being shocking and very controversial. So that's not going to win him over to a lot of people, especially in the mainstream entertainment. Most of the people who he was able to get on his show and on a regular basis in those days, as far as celebrities, were a bunch of people on the edge or fringes of it, or there were people like Sam Kinison, who was definitely a top headlining guy who he's friends with, but as controversial in his ways as Howard was. So he made friends with people of that were on that same line that he was there. But over the years, of course, we know that he becomes friends with more of the A-listers who back in the day he would have mocked and made fun of. In fact, one good example is Kathy Lee Gifford, who he was ferocious about back in the day. And I tend to say not entirely without reason, because the people he was criticizing, there is that elite of Hollywood that, and it's not every one of them, but there is a good amount of them out there that are phonies, that are fakes, that that's why so many of us enjoyed hearing him, bust their bubbles. But now I don't think he'll say a single bad word about her because he's become friends with her and everything else. I don't know that they go dining together, but I know that he would not say the things he did in the past, and she's just one example. But if you notice back, if you follow his show or his career on any level, back around the time that he got on America's Got Talent, that's when I see the shift really starting to happen. It didn't fully form. His show still had the same bent to some degree that it had for the years prior, for years still to come after that. But that's where I think it started to turn, because when he got on America's Got Talent, that was one of the first levels that he was being accepted by the mainstream entertainment community. And because he was being accepted, he was able to start being invited to more parties and such. And also, I think there's another factor, because I know he's been good friends with Jimmy Kimmel over the years. And Jimmy Kimmel was not, when Howard started, Jimmy Kimmel was a kid, basically. He was a teenager. And so Howard Stern also 30 years got fans like Jimmy Kimmel, because Jimmy Kimmel was a fan, like Artie Lang, who was one of the co-hosts on Howard Stern's show for many years, also was young enough that he grew up on Howard Stern's show. It came during his formative teen years as well. And a lot of the other people that are in Hollywood now grew up on Howard Stern. So it was a kind of a combination of things, where Howard had been around long enough. They say, like in the Batman movie, you've been around long enough that you become the bad guy, basically, in a sense. I'm paraphrasing. Well, it's opposite with Howard Stern. He was the bad guy long enough, but then survived long enough in the field and became so successful that he actually started to turn the other way, where people saw him not quite as negatively as they had in the past. I mean, he still has that reputation even to this day that will follow him to some degree, because he has so many years of being a shock jock that there's a lot of people who have been around in Hollywood a long time in the mainstream that still probably don't really care for him as much, but they've seen him change and become more like them, part of the Hollywood elite, so they're more accepting and forgiving of him. And he still had enough pull with interviews and such to help their promotions. But what I'm getting at is, so not only did he start to change his image on some level when he got America's Got Talent as a co-host there, and he got this opportunity on a mainstream major network TV show to give a different side of him to that audience. But also, he had the younger celebrities who, again, grew up on him, so they were actually fans of his, and some of these were becoming A-listers themselves. So since they already grew up on Howard Stern, they actually liked him. They didn't have this animosity or, hatred of him or what have you, that the older celebrities would back in the day when he was busting their chops on the radio. So through the newer crop of celebrity that were becoming A-listers and an elite, he was actually welcomed. And also, again, he softened his image and started to become more palpable. Excuse me, I'm messing up words all through this. So, but he became more acceptable even to some of the older guard, because he had shown himself through America's Got Talent and such things like that to be this more mainstream kind of guy, or he could be, and he had a softer edge to him. And so then, of course, after his divorce, he married his wife, Beth, and, and she was well-to-do, apparently, and so they moved to the Hamptons and all that. So basically start living like one of the elite Hollywood types. And So my whole point, like I said, to wrap this up, really, my whole point is, has the show changed? It's 100% definitely has changed. There's no question about it. There's he's more politically correct than he ever would have been back in those days. He doesn't want to do the shock stuff as much. He still got, from what I've seen, I don't watch his show or listen to it regularly anymore, but from what I've tuned in and heard from time to time, he still will sometimes have some irreverency. He still has some kind of a little bit of an edge, but not very much. He's more content again now being known as an interviewer of the A-list, mainstream, even elitist celebrities. He's palsy with them. These are not interviews that these people are afraid to go on. Back in the day, celebrities of a certain stature were afraid, some literally afraid, to go on the Howard Stern show, because they knew back then he wasn't going to pull any punches. Back then he was going to say it like, I wouldn't really say like he saw it, but like he knew his audience saw it. And he wasn't afraid to take those punches back then. But again, once he started getting more and more accepted in their community, he pulled back on that because he doesn't want them to dislike him. He didn't care if he disliked them back then, because he wasn't going to get into their parties anyway back in the late 80s, early 90s. They weren't going to have him regardless. And so part of his frustration is with not being part of that crowd, he could vent by doing these kind of bits on the show, or by having these interviews where he wouldn't hold back. But nowadays, there's no chance. I don't think there's any chance he's going to have a controversial interview with any of the celebrities that come on his show now. He's very happy to help them promote things, and like most celebrities, that's the major reason they do interviews, really, is for promotions. And he wants to psychoanalyze them on the show, and again see them through his filter of how he acts. But he's not really there to expose them, or to burst their bubble, or show show his audience that these people aren't so hoity-toity, basically. And that's fine for what he wants, if he wants to do that. But I don't think there should be any pretense that he's not changed. But as far as how he's always viewed things, I think he's always viewed things that he wanted to be part of that crowd. The show, because he's now able to be more his true self, because I think this is his true self. I think he's truer. What you're seeing now is truer. Those insecurities he had back in the day, and the anger, and that was true. I believe that was true. But his view of those people was more, like I said, jealousy and envy. It wasn't because he thought they were wrong. It wasn't because he thought that was a bad way to be. He just wanted to be it too. And now he can be, because he gets to hang out with the crew that he really always wanted to be part of. I don't think he ever really wanted to be part of the common man crew, and you can see this even the way he streamlined his crew on his show, even the people who work for him. He doesn't have the same kind of people on the show there either. They gave them their walking papers. Anyway, so what do you think? Do you agree with this? I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up because I'm pretty much now starting to just repeat myself or ramble on about it. And I'll figure what I'm going to do as far as my videos is every once in a while I'll do like this, where I'm going to just vlog about my opinions or viewpoints on some things in between music videos I put up and other creative stuff. And so anyway, thanks for watching, and again, just let me know what you think about it. How do you feel Howard Stern has changed? Do you think he's always actually been somebody who aspired to be part of that community with the entertainment business? Or do you think he just legitimately, truly changed, that he really was like his audience as far as how we saw Hollywood's elite? Or do you think, what do you think? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and sign off and go, yay! Thanks for watching.